Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out 2-sentence horror. Story 1. NOV23. I know you want me overweight so nobody looks at me, but I am trying to be the best version of myself, my girlfriend screamed at me. Looking at her gaunt and emaciated body barely sweating in the scorching sauna, I don't know what I can do to convince her she doesn't need to lose any more weight. Story 2. Every night I look out my window to see the same deer eat the grass from under the same big tree. Every time I look at the same deer, I swear each time I see the deer grow bigger. Story 3. I didn't believe in love at first sight until I met the woman of my dreams. She took my heart and left the rest of me to the maggots. Story 4. I was 12 hours into a long-haul ride when a guy in a car drove into my lane, crashing head-on into my rig. Story 5. For as long as I can remember, I've always slept better cuddling with someone. What I can't seem to remember is when I started to prefer them being cold. Story 6. When time travel was invented, I immediately went back in time to see who really killed JFK. When I reached the room, all I saw was a loaded gun, trained directly at the road the motorcade would soon traverse, and no one else in sight. Story 7. After checking the security footage of the man entering my house, I locked all my doors. That's when I heard the attic open, and I remembered I never saw them leave. Story 8. I prayed for the Lord to remove this curse that causes anyone that tries to help me to die. The next day angels descended to earth to announce God's demise. Story 9. As I talked to the police, I had no idea why the infamous gang of criminals would kidnap my daughter. When the police finally tracked her down, it became clear that the criminals knew her better than I did. Story 10. I'm just not that impressed to know mice can fit through a quarter-inch hole. Dogs can too, if you try hard enough. Story 11. My brother has been convinced that mirrors are gateways to another dimension, and as long as you go through them at the right angle and speed you can get through to the other side, otherwise you'll bounce right across the surface like skipping a stone across a body of water. I found his body today, his head bloodied and bruised with shards of the broken mirror in front of him embedded into his skull. Story 12. First dates aren't for the weak, but she wasn't really nervous and he looked very handsome in the agreed-upon cafe. In the darkness of the musky, cramped trunk, she decided that her coffee indeed tasted more than a little off today and cursed her politeness. Story 13. Troxler effect, seeing demonic disfigured faces in the mirror. But since when can they speak? Story 14. From the depths of the woods an otherworldly cacophony clawed its way into the silence, each chilling wail a symphony of terror that left even the bravest souls trembling in fear. The sounds seemed to beckon, promising horrors beyond comprehension to those foolish enough to follow their haunting melody. Story 15. Years ago my friend confided to me that he gets brilliant ideas whenever he causes immense physical harm to others. Understandably, I find his recent increased output of short stories concerning. Story 16. I gave him my code name. He called me by my real name. Story 17. I've always heard we see our life flash before our eyes when we die, but I didn't expect my last second to feel as long as my 92 years on Earth. And after witnessing my whole life, hoping for the sweet relief of death, I truly wasn't prepared to relieve that last second, stretching for another 92 years again and then again and then again. Story 18. When I first started working at the nursing home, I was asked to hold the hands of dying residents so they wouldn't feel alone. Sylvia smiles back at me, dazed and confused, her grasp gradually growing limp as the injection begins to take effect. Story 19. I sat on the mall Santa's lap and felt something rising. It wasn't my Christmas spirit. Story 20. I asked dispatch what color the lost dog's collar light was. Single green LED light, they radioed, as I stared with terror at the 3 blinking red orbs approaching me in the dark. Story 21. DEC 2023. I sadly scraped the batch of my double chocolate chip cookies into the trash after trying one and finding the taste off. It wasn't until I started the next batch that I noticed the tiny tooth marks in the bag of chocolate chips. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 22. My heartbeat rose with excitement and I smiled for the first time in months as I waved at the descending helicopter my rescue. The last thing before my eyes that my brain has the time to process is the rapidly rotating blades careening straight towards me. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 23. I was so happy to see again after years of being blind from that accident. Why are my tears red? Story 24. The ravenous winged insects buzzed and swarmed around me, their fangs sinking into my skin. As I felt them begin to gnaw at my eyes, my final thought before complete darkness was, just let the friggin' Israelites go already. Story 25. I woke up in the most beautiful place I've ever seen. Then a man spoke to me, in a British accent. Story 26. Our invasion plans of using parasites was slowing down as the humans used new tactics to destroy those that were infected. Luckily, we were finally able to infect their alcohol supply and infection rates have started climbing once again. Story 27. Today they announced that there are only 12,000 spots left in heaven. Millions of terrified parents rushed to kill their own children. Story 28. Necklace was all I heard my 5-year say from the next room over. The bungee cord looped around his neck was drawn tight by the binder he hung from one end. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 29. They say it takes up to 12 hours for the hallucinations to stop after taking acid. But even after 31 hours the blood-soaked and decomposing figure is still following me. Story 30. I flew wildly through the pitch-black water park slide and felt a jolting pain as I slammed into something I couldn't see. As I fumbled around, desperately trying to dislodge it, I felt a firm grasp close over my mouth. Story 31. I showed my child how to burn in the brand new oven. And then made him promise not to cook any more neighborhood kittens or hurt any more animals. Story 32. Man is the only animal who refuses to be what he truly is. Albert Camus. And I, my friends, am killer. Story 33. I usually carry a pocket knife on me for protection. This drunkard's broken glass bottle will have to do in order to teach him about the dangers of passing out in my neighborhood. Story 34. Someone's written a sign in bright red letters on the last bridge out of the city. Not sure what snip means though. Story 35. Huddled together we parents clung to our children while the beast who had slain his own sat in the opposite corner clutching her lifeless body. Sitting alone in the corner of their cell, he cradled the body of his beloved child, contemplating how long it would take for those sitting opposite him to realize that his daughter's fate was far more merciful than the one that awaited theirs. Story 36. Unable to move or speak, I could do nothing but watch in horror as the doctor reached to turn off my life support. Luckily, he tripped on my infant nephew that my aunt had forgotten to take with her when she left. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 37. Since the train ride should only take 10 minutes, I was positive I'd make it to my appointment just in time. It's now been 2 hours, but that tunnel just won't end. Story 38. My wife examined our newborn daughter's twisted and malformed foot before reluctantly handing her to me, and I took her carefully. Then, I lay her on the rock, placed the iron rod over her throat, and stepped on both ends until a sickening crunch ended her pitiful gurgles. Story 39. As a crime scene investigator, I was warned that I might see the absolute filth of humanity. However, nothing could have prepared me for seeing the collection of newborns with the same hole shapes on the top of their head next to a rusty spoon. Story 40. Hark how the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say throw cares away. Go ahead and start shooting. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 41. As I wished to be able to read minds, I was confused why the genie's thoughts before flying away were, "You'll regret this." Now that I'm hearing thoughts of everyone in my city simultaneously, hundreds of thousands of voices all talking at the same time in my head, I understand these words. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 42. I was devastated when my husband left me over what he called obsessive and delusional preparation for a terrorist attack that would never happen. But when he said he would take me back if the city ever were attacked, I knew exactly how to fix things. Story 43. I really hate feeling fat because of the water retention that comes with monthly hormone fluctuations. But I'm not done eating soul out of this body yet. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 44. I collected antique dolls all my life and eventually wanted a child of my own to play with one. A few years later, I had my first kid and unfortunately she passed away suddenly. However, I put her as an organ donor and now I have pieces of her within my collection. Story 45. As a hospital recruiter, I was happy to hire someone who happened to be an organ donor. I was later informed by his family doctor that he still had all the organs he was born with. Story 46. Mama never used to cuss. But ever since I showed her what was in the cellar, she hasn't stopped beating me horrendously, both verbally and physically. Story 47. My grandmother always told me that sweeping the floor after dark would bring us bad luck. I never believed in this superstition not until I felt a strong force coming from outside the door that was tugging my broom, begging to enter inside our house. Story 48. In the dim glow of my phone's flashlight I saw a message written on my bedroom wall, "You're not alone." My phone had been dead since last night. Story 49. Shivering, I cranked the key in the ignition and the car jumped to life. Reminder to check your back seat, the dashboard blinked. Story 50. Deja vu. I thought just going on with my day. But then I realized that yesterday was repeating again and again with no escape for all eternity. Story 51. My dad dropped me home driving away to run some errands. How did he greet me at the door? That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.